Alright, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So, today we continue from where we stopped in our last class. I think we stopped on functions. Yeah. So that was where we talk about how function works, what functions do, and how it's been created. And then I remember I made an example of how to use function in our last class. So basically today what we'll be going through is some other basics part of JavaScript for web. Although these basics are what makes up of JavaScript both in the web and in the server. So, but any example, just like we've been doing before, will be basically on how it is used with the web. So let's go over it from object. Let's look what object is and how it is being used. So object is like it is defined here. It's a real life object property. Okay, it's a real life it's like a container that is used for just like a variable, but in this case it contains just more than one values. So in this example here, let's look at it in a more real scenario. So let's say, for instance, a object can be a car object, it can be a house object, but then there are different type of cars. There are different colors, different in their own properties and how the functionalities. So now, key things to note in an object. Object has a name, which is the general name for that object, and then it has a property and method. So the properties is referring to all the features of that car, or let's say all the physical appearance of that object. Like in the case of car here, we have the color, we have the shape, we have the size, we have a lot of things, we have the model. So those are the properties. But when we talk about method, we talk about the functionalities, the features. So in a nutshell, in other words, methods can also mean a function inside an object. So that means we can have something like let's open our folders to do the example. We have this, right? Okay. So here what we are saying here is that object is something like this. You create an object like your variable. So let's say we create a const, or let's say let car. We create a car object, and then you put this. So this curly braces, opening and closing curly braces, is denoting that this is an object that you want to create, not a regular variable. So inside here you can have different variables and different values, so which include which you can separate with comma. Let's say, for instance, you want to have let's give it a name, say color, using this colon, and then give it value, let's say red. Separate it with comma. Let's have another property that should be size or model. Let's use model since you're talking about car. Model is let's do that as a string. Okay, 20 year 2022. So we can have what we call method as well. So let's say car start. So we can say car start function. So a function inside a method, an object like this is referred to a method. It is referred to as a method. So whenever we want to use this car, so this car has become a model like this, and then we can refer to any value inside it by saying car dot color. So maybe in any of our this like this, you can just say okay, document dot, let's write it in the screen, write car so this will give us color red in the screen. Now let's start this. Oops, what's this? Oh, sorry. Okay, so we have yellow, red. Right? Do we have it here? Let's see that. Javascript. Where is it? Somewhere. Okay. Oh, that's the error there. We don't have this function, that's why it's throwing error. So let's create it down here and say car start. Return car started. So yeah, so car started now. That's the function. So we refer to this here now and say, let's set this back again. See. Hello. Where is that again? Okay, it's here, red. So just to show you what it means to how to create an object and how it is being used. So let's go back to our W3 screen, check more on that. So as you can see, you said all cars have the same properties, but the property values differ from car to car. All cars have same methods, but the methods are performed at different time. So on the norms, every car should have a start time, start functionality. It should be able to drive, it should have brake, it should have stop, it should have all those functions should be there. And but then different cars has different ways of doing this stuff. So that is why we have this object to help us do the manipulations for different as a model for different objects. So now he said, okay, you have already learned that JavaScript variables are containers for data values. This code assigns a simple value to a variable named car. So this is just what we've talked about earlier, that's creating a variable. So but in the case of object, you don't have to do this the variable name equals, so we say key column type. So key column type the value, so that's how you create a variable of different values inside one object. Now let's try out, and then here we have, so the car type is Fiat. So let's say we can update the type of the car before we use it by saying car.type equals to normal. So let's save this, and then you have normal. So that's how you update the value of different variables in the object. So let's go back to where we are and see the values are written in. Okay, value pair. It is a common practice to declare object with a constant keyword. Yes, as you can see, when I want to create mine here, I initially wanted to use const. That's because by default you have all this as a default value, and it's like a tradition, but you can as well create it with different let or var. So coming back to where we are, object definition. Okay, now you can define object just like what we discussed earlier, and then spaces and line breaks. So you can have them on a straight line like this, you can also have them like this, it's the same thing. So object properties, talk about that. Okay, so there are two ways to have access to the value of an object. This is the first one, using dot notation. So dot notation to have access to it, and then the other one is bracket, using bracket to get the string and the value. So when you are using both dot notation and the bracket way, you are going to be having access to the key name, and then it is the key name that you use to get the the value from it. So by saying property car.type, so it is still the same thing as saying type. Let's save the guys on this now. See, it's still the same thing. So to be sure we have a yes, that's it. So if you want to have access to this value, you get it through the variable or the key name. So let's say model instead here, and then run this, you have 500. So that is that. And then the other thing you need to know about proper object is object can also have method, like I explained earlier. So the methods are functions that you can have access to define a particular feature for that object. So in this case, let's say you want to say getting the full name of the user of a person. So you can create a function to do that for you, and then anytime you call this object
full name,
anytime you call this object, this method, it will return the full name of the person for you. Okay, so now one strange thing here is this keyword. This is a reference keyword that is used for referring to the particular object. It's just like saying person dot first name. So instead of bringing this person here inside this place, you can just refer to this guy as this. I'm sure you understand that. So instead of saying person dot first name, person dot last name, as the way you will use it outside this object, and instead of doing that, you can just say this. That means you are referring to this object dot first name and then this dot last name. Refer to this. Okay. So yeah, this is a special keyword in JavaScript. Other programming language too has what they call this, and it's exactly the same thing that it does, but a little bit different from each other. So in JavaScript, this keyword refers to an object, which object depends on how this is being invoked or used. So in an object method, this refers to the object. Now this refers to the global object when you are using this, not when you are not inside the object reference, then you are referring to a global object. That is, maybe you're talking about a document or Windows. So that is what this is referring to, a global object. And then in a function, this refers to the global object as well. In a function in strict mode, this is undefined. In an event, this refers to the element that received the event. So we will get to event and we'll talk about what event does. So, and then the last part is methods like call, apply, bind. Refer this to any object. So one thing you need to note down in this explanation is that the in the context of using this, we determine who this is referring to. So the first example is what we already talked about, when I said this in this case is referring to this object.
person,
So now if we okay, let's see. Okay, the accessing this. Okay, I think this is all you need to know on this particular stuff here. So I'll be stopping here on object while I take on event and string. So on event and string, we'll be stopping on string today. Inshallah, we'll send in another video to continue on our next class tomorrow, inshallah. So